Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our Monday night roundup, as we always do here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. I'm delighted to say, as ever, joined by our usual regular faces, Jason Booker, Stephen Downs, and Gareth Walker, to discuss all things West Yorkshire football and beyond tonight, because it's not been the most action-packed of weeks for the West Yorkshire clubs, it's fair to say. So we are going to take a look at some of the wider topics from the weekend's footballing action as well. We're going to start, though, as always, with our Championship side. Sorry, League One side now. That was a genuine accident, Steve. Not that he's ever going to believe me.
Wow.
The biggest news off the pitch of any of our clubs this week came in the form of Michael Duff and the announcement towards the middle of last week. Now, obviously, Steve, you've done your own line of reaction piece on that, but we'll just kind of reflect on it a little bit more again, because, of course, this time last week, we were weighing up the options and looking at the whole situation.
Yeah, I wanted to just do a quick summary, really, on video the other day, because obviously it was hot topic news. I think since the few days that I've had to reflect on the appointment, I think it's a good appointment. I like what he has to say. I think, he says that it's only words at the moment, and it needs to become actions. Obviously, that actions can't really take place until, the start of the season in July. But I think it's a good start. It was a good press conference. I enjoyed it. I thought there was a bit of truth to it, bit of harsh facts as well. The fact that we've been relegated. He knows the division. He's obviously reflected on his time away from the game and after the Swansea City job that he did, saying that he should have never left Barnsley. I like that, in honesty. You don't get a lot of managers coming out from previous jobs and saying that they shouldn't have left the previous club. I thought that was very honest of him, to be honest. And I thought overall what he said is good. It's a bit unknown at the moment. He's probably, that was 72 hours after he'd been announced. So I'm sure he's got lots of ideas of who he wants to bring in and people like that, players wise. We don't really know his backroom team as of yet properly, so that'll be interesting when that's announced. Although I'm pretty sure he's taken backroom staff to all his clubs. I don't think anybody's left him. So from what I know, overall I was pleased.
It'll be an interesting one, because am I right in thinking, and just thinking back on my mind for watching that whole press conference, that topic of conversation didn't seem to come up in it, like his backroom staff, did it?
No, it didn't. No, and even afterwards, when the stream stopped, obviously there's normally like a little bit of chatter and whatever before he leaves the room. But no, nobody seemed to think, oh God, we should have asked him that. I think it's just taken now where most managers sort of take the backroom staff, don't they?
Yeah, and a lot will depend, I guess, on who was employed at Swansea that had been with him at Barnsley, and whether any of those that he would want to bring are actually still at Swansea in contract with roles that have been kept on. So time will tell on that front.
Yeah.
We kind of got the flavour that players will perhaps be given a chance. He doesn't seem to be coming in with too many preconceptions, although he also said, of course, that he's well researched the role he's taken. But I think it comes across that some players are perhaps going to get fresh starts that those on the outside looking in from a Town fan perspective may not necessarily have wanted to be given second chances, shall we say.
Yeah, I think there was no, obviously, names mentioned or even a hint of who he was on about, but I can envisage that, it was interesting what Mark Cartwright had to say as well, the sporting director that was alongside him. He kind of said that there'd be he kind of contradicted himself, because he said that there weren't going to be a big changeover, and then he said there'll be plenty of additions. So hopefully we'll get something in between. I think the club's probably made their mind up on a couple of players, if I'm honest, ones that they probably can move on for a bit of money. Helic. I feel like Sorba Thomas is the one of contention. Like, is he going to force a move, or is he just going to give Duff a chance? Do the club still want him around? I don't know. Same really for Jack Radoni. I think the other, what were perceived bad eggs, are very young lads. So they probably can be turned around. And I asked him about that sort of mentally turning young players around, and he had to do the same thing at Barnsley. In fact, he had a lot younger at Barnsley when he went in there, and I feel like he'll have a bit more of an experienced squad here, so he probably can utilise those players a bit more, Chris. You've got your like Tom Lees, Matty Pearson, Johnny Ogg. They've been there and done it. Chris Nichols, bloody hell, Lee Nichols. So, and there's not a big thing about selling players either. Barnsley was told, look, you've got to shift 5-6 players out. At Town, he doesn't have to do that, which is positive. I like that. That's good. But I think the club will have made their mind up on some players, and then it depends how people come back in shape and how they mentally come back. And if they want to be here, they'll be here. And the good thing is about Duff, he seems like the kind of man to say, look, if you want to be here, you can be under me. If you don't, I'd rather you leave.
Yeah. I think that's that level of honesty that Town fans will appreciate. Actually, I think that the players would as well. Ian's probably one of the burning questions that was kind of touched upon, I think, slightly in the press conference, but more so in the video that the club put out prior to the press conference, and that is Duff moving up to West Yorkshire? We talked last week about the whole Swansea thing and the fact that Swansea fans were using the fact that he wasn't in Swansea 24/7 to basically beat him around the head with it as a negative. When in reality, it's easier said than done for all people, especially for football managers that travel all over the place and get jobs miles away from home. But he kind of indicated that, look, it's one of those that whether he's up there 5 days a week, 6 days a week, or 3 days a week, like ultimately his commitment is to the club.
Yeah, I think well, from what my information is and what he sort of said in the video, he will be continuing to have his family home at least down in Cheltenham. Yeah. I think he probably will be up here for the majority of the week, if I'm honest, because he seems like that sort of type of guy. I don't think he'll be a Chris, as much as I did like Chris Powell as a human being, he did like going back to London because that's his spiritual home. I think for Duff, at least he's lived up here before, so he kind of gets it. Barnsley's a very similar sort of area to Huddersfield, sort of similar fans. Sort of similar sized clubs in a sense. And so I think, you look at the areas and the way that the people act up here, it probably fits in with what he's done before. So I don't know where he lived when he was at Barnsley, and I don't know whether he might go back there. I mean, it's not a million miles away, Huddersfield, from Barnsley, to be fair, but he lived in Barnsley City, town centre for a while, and I'm sure, I mean, I wouldn't envisage, or I wouldn't tell him to go live in Huddersfield Town Centre, if I'm honest. I'd go up to Honley or Rome Firth, if I'm being completely honest on that front. Definitely not Brighouse, although, as much as we like Brighouse on this channel. So I think he will live up here in terms of hotels and probably get a rented place. That's what Warnock did. So, yeah, I've come round to more your lads thinking on it, really. I think I was an outlier in that he had to be up here 24/7. Kind of roll back on my opinion on that a little bit, because at least when he is here, at least he's all in. And I think I also have the opinion that family is important, and I do like that about him. I mean, something I didn't know was that he's from a military family background. I mean, you can tell that when you look at him, you hear him speak, but I did find that really interesting as well.
I think, Steve, I think, and I mentioned it in the group chat, I think we all sort of agreed, where he lives only becomes a problem if you're losing games. If you're winning games, nobody cares about where he lives. People look for reasons when you're losing, and that'll be something that he'll be beaten around the head with if you are. But
that's what happened at Swansea, isn't it? That's exactly what happened at Swansea. Games and performances weren't quite there. It was any old excuse to beat Michael Duff with.
That and style of play, Chris, which you watched the press conference. He was very honest on that as well, wasn't he? I think he basically said, look, they weren't the right match. I think Swansea probably employed him because he was one of the up-and-coming managers at the time, one of the best sort of win ratios in League One. And so, they probably employed him because of that and not because of his style of play. He's got to admit that he did make a mistake as well, and you've got to pick your club rightly. And I think we are the right club for him because he's got a blank canvas here, really. They're into style of play. They're into there isn't an ingrained, mantra of where you've got to play football. So he can sort of create what he wants here.
We've talked about this before, haven't we? I think you're right in picking your clubs, but picking your time as well. Wasn't he favourite at one point when Brighton Wright got the job? Wasn't Duff heavily linked then?
Yeah,
it makes you wonder if he's looked at it and thought, I don't want a relegation on my CV, but I quite fancy having a promotion on my CV.
That wasn't, so from my information, that wasn't from Duff's side of things. I think Duff would have come. I think Duff was up for coming when Brian Writer did get the job. They just decided to go with Brian Writer's CV and all of that sort of side of things. Really more gas, to be fair. But to be fair, it's worked out because, he's all right, we've got relegated, but he's not got that bad feeling of relegation.
Exactly.
So he can come in now and just go, right, forget about what's happened before. I'm here now. I'm going to create a positive winning culture as much as I can. And we're going to go. We're going to set off the roller coaster from here.
Yeah.
Go on, I was just going to say, ultimately, they're just coming back to the point about that we're a stick to beating with. Whatever situation a manager finds themselves in, if the results are bad, they'll find a stick. So it genuinely doesn't matter if he's living in Cornwall or, style of play or whatever. They'll pick up on the way that a certain manager conducts his press conferences. I've seen that over the years. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is, does it? So I honestly don't think, like you say, it matters at all, and it won't become a problem at all as long as you're winning games. So,
when are you expecting news-wise with the squad then, Steve? Are we thinking, because am I thinking that a retained list hasn't yet officially come out?
No, it was officially come out on Friday. Friday was the last day when EFL clubs had to announce their retained list.
Go on, then, because that passed me by.
Okay, so basically the big news is there's no surprises. That is the big news. Basically, Jordan Rhodes has been released. Yuta Nakayama has been released. He wanted to go probably play in Europe. World Cup's in 2 years. He's had bad injuries, so he wanted to be off. Rhodes, I think, had just come naturally to his end at Town. I mean, I would have kept him maybe, but he's on big money, and maybe we want to get somebody younger in, a younger striker. Brahma Diarra, he's gone, although he didn't want to sign a new contract.
Oh, he's had enough for telling us, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it's Steve Sprouse there. Yeah.
Sorry?
Oh, is he back? Put another pound in the meter, Downs there.
Have I lost you?
I'm
back.
He's back.
It was weird. It kind of all froze. We could hear you, but you weren't moving your lips. It was like the best ventriloquist act I've ever seen.
Okay. Where did I get to?
Diarra.
Sorry, yes. Diarra, a young French lad who didn't want to sign a new contract. He'll probably go back abroad. And then the rest, really, Chris, were young kids, a lot from the B team. So we've actually let go of, I believe, 26 players, I think, overall. And we've got to sell some as well. So it's going to be a bigger, influx of players, I think. But the B team, because we've changed now from the B team model and gone back to the academy, a lot of these B team lads now are going to probably go further down the division and find new clubs. I mean, to be fair, if I were Bradford, I'd be looking at a few of these lads to maybe step into, because some of them are decent talents. Don't get me wrong. Like, some of them are, even if they're not quite League Two level, they could get there. We've seen before with the likes of, Scott High. I mean, I know he's still at Town, but, he's gone down to League Two and done all right at Accrington. Rowe at Crewe, obviously, he's been released. I'm sure Crewe probably will sign him.
I was about to say, and Josh Osterfield as well, who's obviously, he was at Crewe, obviously, with them not playing the playoff until obviously Sunday. Are they both on the way out? Is Osterfield contract?
No, Osterfield's got a year left, but Rowe's been released.
Saw a few City fans talking about Rowe. I think the issue with him, obviously, is he's right-hand-sided, isn't he? So with Brad Halliday there, but he had a great season at Crewe. I can see him easily getting picked up, if not by Crewe, by somebody else.
Yeah, a lot of these lads, and Town have had a good history, really, of even though they've let lads go, they've a lot of these lads have gone on to play in League Two and you know the conference and had really decent careers. So that's the retained list, Chris. Really, in a nutshell, no surprises, but it needed to be done.
Yeah, the good news for you is my football manager hero Kyle Hudlin's still on the contract, so that's a different conversation altogether. Absolute goal machine.
I think he'll be sold. If I'm honest, I think he'll be one to be gone.
I don't know. From what I remember, Michael Duff likes a target man, and at 6'9", you don't get more of a target than that. Anyway,
no, but you can't head a ball, Chris.
Go again.
You can't head a ball.
Hey, you can practice that.
You can.
The thing really that's kind of come out in terms of the pre-season program is a nice little friendly locally at Guiseley as well. The first that I think Guiseley put out anyway, and presumably the first pre-season that Huddersfield will have announced at this stage.
No, we've announced quite a number of pre-season games. You've clearly missed quite a lot, Chris. So we've announced Emley, Guiseley, York, and then a trip to Austria. It's not been announced who we're going to be playing in Austria.
We knew about Austria weeks ago. Did you announce all the non-league ones at the same time?
No. We announced York, Guiseley, Emley. I can't remember the other one. It might be Harrogate. We normally play Harrogate in pre-season. I know they're not non-league, but yeah, we announced basically 4 or 5 fixtures that are going to be pre-season before the players go to Austria. I think the Austria trip is later in the summer, so that sort of concludes the pre-season. Really, there's normally a big home game. I don't know whether they're going to do that this time, but no, we played Harveen, I think, last year. But they're always letdowns. Bloody hell, I remember when we played Newcastle at home in a friendly. It was like Colaccini playing. It was like, oh my God. Just crap football. Honestly.
Well, you sound thrilled to get pre-season here sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So Stockport. We're playing Stockport, I think. Yeah, we normally...
Can't be playing Stockport in the same division.
No, we normally play Stockport in pre-season. I won't be surprised if we
You're
tried
on a level now. You're on a level now.
Shut
Steve.
up, shut up, Jay.
No 2 divisions between
Jay,
now.
Jay, don't even start, mate, because this week's going to be hell for you, so don't even start.
Hey, it could be heaven. Who knows?
Let's move on then from Huddersfield Town to potentially Jay's heaven or potentially Jay's hell. Who knows how the week's going to pan out? Leeds United, Jay. We were basking in the glory of that second leg win last Thursday night. I mean, have you calmed down yet? Have you slept yet? Because you were bouncing off the walls. I didn't think you'd be sleeping for days.
Yeah, I didn't sleep much that night, I've got to say. And everybody that I've spoken to that went to the game was pretty much exactly the same. In that the adrenaline was absolutely pumping, and I were only at home. The atmosphere from everything that I've heard was the best they've ever seen at Ellen Road the other night, which, given the circumstances, not a massive surprise. But I think it just goes to show that the fans are right behind the lads, because I've been a little bit critical of it, but ultimately the fan base really came to it when it mattered most. And that was from minute one. It weren't just when they'd seen the performance, they were really at it. So, yeah, mate, I've been absolutely bouncing off the walls, but the reality of dealing with Sunday is obviously fast approaching. I've seen 2 playoff final losses. I've seen 2 semi-final losses. So I know what it's like. I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen the disappointment of missing out on the top 2 as well. Like, it's tough going for promotion and then being the one that misses out. Not only that, we play, obviously, in Southampton, a team that have beaten us twice. They're the only team in the division to do the double overs. I would argue that they were the only team in the division that, over the 2 games, didn't really struggle against us at all. And when you consider over the 46-game season, we'd either beaten or had good spells against every other team, even West Brom, who we didn't beat. I think certainly at Ellen Road, we deserve to beat them. I will say with that, there was a bit of caveats with both. There's some context with both. I think the Southampton game, the last game of the season, I don't think can be a measure, given everything that... Yeah, it was a bit weird for us, and, we knew that Ipswich were going to do what they needed to do on the last day of the season, and we really didn't go into that I think the players and fans with the belief that we had anything to play for. And I think when we played them back earlier on in the season at St Mary's, we had a back four that day of Jamie Shackleton at right back, Sam Byram at left back, Liam Cooper and Pascal Stroik. The back four were all over the place. Roden was on the bench. Firpo was unfit. Byram was playing over on the left-hand side. Ayling weren't playing or available at the time. It was a little bit all over. So I do think there's a bit of context to it. It was a bad day. We didn't play particularly well that day. And I think Southampton scored 3 with an XG of 0.3, if I remember. The 3 goals were from all like acute angles or like outside the box. It was just one of them days. We deserved to lose, but it was just one of them days. So I don't think you can take too much from the 2 games, but I do think Southampton are a real threat. I think they've got a serious team on their hands. I'd argue that they're probably as good as Leeds and as good as Leicester, and probably should have finished in the top 2 as well. If you're going to make that case about Leeds, that we should have beaten Ipswich to second, I think you can make the case about that for Southampton as well. Flynn Downs, Stuart Armstrong, Shea Adams. I think just quality runs all the way through the team. Bednarak, Kyle Walker-Peters, England international at right back. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a real tough one. I think it's a 50-50 game.
From Gaz and Steve's perspective, I mean, who would you see as favourites for this? Because I'll be honest, I'm very on the fence here. It's rare you look at any playoff final and think, whilst they can always go either way, there's usually always in every game a favourite to it. With this one between Leeds and Saints, I think it's bloody impossible to call it.
I think it depends what Leeds turn up, really. If the Leeds from the Norwich game the other night...
Well, we don't know this, Gaz. Who's the favourite?
Yeah, I know. I sit on the fence at the best of times, don't I? But I do. I think if the Leeds from the other night play, they'll win the game. But if the Leeds from with a few weeks preceding the other night play, then Southampton will win the game. So depends if you've turned that corner and gone back to the Leeds team from earlier in the season and can carry on where you left off the other night. If you can't, then Southampton will probably win. But if you can, then there's nothing that I'm fairly sure that Leeds will win. So it really does depend on which Leeds turn up.
I'd agree with that. Just before you get to that comment, because I want to make my point on that as well. I think Gaz is spot on. I think if we play even 90% as well as we did against Norwich, I think we win the game. But with an inexperienced squad, with a young squad, you can't always guarantee them performances, especially on a day like Sunday at Wembley. For most of them, it will be the biggest game that any of them players have ever played, regardless of whether some of these have played in the Premier League or top German league or wherever. This is a massive game. It is arguably the biggest game in this country, isn't it? They say that. I mean, in terms of the monies that's attached to it, and
yeah, it's cliche, but it's always billed. It is the richest game in football, yada yada. Whether that really works for 2 sides that were Premier League clubs a year before anyway, and about regardless, I'm not quite sure. But in this case, it still is the richest game in football. Have to touch on Zach, who is a Huddersfield fan, throwing all the shade and weight at Leeds being massive favourites, apparently. I honestly don't think they are. I think it's a very, very even call in this case.
Bear in mind, we finished 3 points apart come the end of the season. We're both recently relegated clubs. We both had a very similar kind of summer. I would say their summer was slightly less disrupted than ours. They've blown hot and cold, probably more than us. One week they look so comfortable with the style. Then the week after they get smashed 5-0 by Leicester and lose 2-1 to Cardiff Kids. So you can't. It's so strange to know exactly how Sunday's going to play out. Down to
what Leeds will turn up. It's what Southampton will turn up as well.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, I thought they were really good the other night. They got a little bit of stick in the West Brom game, but I thought they were really solid. To be honest,
I mean, Zach's making the point there, kind of more about having Farker in charge, been there and done it.
Never been in the playoffs.
That's the thing. He's got promotions, but he's never been in that playoff environment, and it's one of those how different of a cauldron is the pressure of automatic promotion compared to that one-off game, I suppose. And let's be honest, as fans, none of us really know.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Carlos Corberon and Wagner have both done playoffs and both lost in the semis. So, I get that their squads are not as good as ours and Southampton's. I do hear that, but ultimately, I think in this going into this game anyway, I don't think it really matters. I think it's who out of the two teams who can compose themselves and keep themselves together and stick to the game plan for as long as possible will probably win the game. Southampton, from everything that I've seen at him, if you get at them, I think at the back that they can be all over the place, and I think they're overplaying it at Wembley in the first 10 minutes, and you catch them. I think the game can go away from them real quick. But I think it depends on the way that we set up. I think that's a massive question. Will he go back to the 4-3-3 that we started at Carrow Road, or will he go to the 4-2-3-1? I can't see it either. I think it'll be the exact same team that played against Norwich in the second leg. I think it'll be the same personnel, exactly the same. But it's still a question to have.
Off the back of that performance and that result, it would be a brave man to change the system. Look, if anybody wants to sponsor the West Yorkshire Football Show and get us all collectively down to Wembley on Sunday, whether with or without a ticket, we'll settle for a pitch on Wembley Way, to be fair. Live stream from Wembley Way would be amazing. Obviously, Jay, you're hoping to get there.
I'm hoping so. I've got my fingers in so many pies right now to try and get a ticket, because I mean, I get it. Once upon a time, I was a season ticket holder. I went to all the away games. Then I deserved a ticket. Now I don't go as often because of my commitments, and I don't deserve a ticket. I get that, but ultimately, I'm still going to try and get one. However, I might try and get one. So
at this stage, you're on the phone to mates you haven't spoken to for years, ex-girlfriends you haven't seen that just happen to know people at the club. You're doing everything you can, aren't you?
I've got, like I say, I've got a few fingers, and I might have to overpay, but I don't care as long as I can get there. It's one of them things, isn't it? Like ultimately, we might go and have ultimate disappointment, but I've been there and experienced that before. I can handle it. I'm a big boy, but ultimately, you've got to try and make sure that you're there for the moments that count, and that's what football's all about, isn't it? So yeah, I'll do everything that I can to get there.
Well, there will certainly, I'm sure, be a lot more Leeds-based content in the course of the week. I know Brownie, who is back from his Euro Disney trip, has got something planned with a couple of extra Leeds United-based guests as well for later in the week. Is that Thursday, potentially, Jay?
Yeah, I think it all depends on Brownie's schedule, really, and when he's going to be back in fighting action. But I'm guessing we'll get something out as a bit of a preview before Sunday, and then we'll be back with the review. If I'm not lucky enough to go to the game, it'll be the same night, I would guess. If it's not, it'll have to be the day after, or Brownie will have to do it with someone else.
Yeah, we want live streams on StreamYard from Wembley. We want you. Look, if you're the one man from the West Yorkshire Football Show that gets in, we want you to do that a lot.
I can do that.
Live streams from there.
I can do that, mate, for sure.
You are the one man West Yorkshire Football Show at this rate. Look, as I say, keep tuned in to the West Yorkshire Football Show over the course of the week for more Leeds United content.
What is Downs' feel on it? Get the badge off. I want to know your unbiased kind of feel on the game.
Be unbiased. Jesus wept. Look at that.
If you can, his opinions of the game away from Leeds United and away from Huddersfield are usually pretty good. As soon as he brings Huddersfield and Leeds into it, he talks a load of crap. So I'd be interested to know if he can stay unbiased and tell us his feeling.
Right. Okay. So you're going to get a minute. Well, not a minute, but you'll have 30 seconds now of me not being biased, right? The way I see the game, I honestly agree with your synopsis of if Southampton come out, they're a bit nervy. First 10 minutes, they're just passing it around at the back, not really going anywhere, and Leeds are pushing. And you get an early goal, I think you could go and dominate them and probably win 2-3-0. If they don't do that, so if they look really comfortable on the ball and pass it about with some zip and sort of get Armstrong running and the players like that, I think it could become a difficult afternoon for both sides because Southampton are really good at controlling the ball. I think you're very you play vertically and they don't. So it's two different styles coming together. Your massive thing is the midfield. If Root on it, then you've got a massive chance. I think because the Wembley pitch, as we all know, is probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest pitches in the country. And so it's
funny. It's funny because me and Chris were talking about this and having a bit of a snigger at the Wembley pitch is massive thing. And we were both saying that we actually don't think it's actually that much bigger than Ellen Road. And somebody else mentioned it on some other content that I was watching the other day. And it turns out I think it's 3 meters in width and 2 meters in length bigger than Ellen Road. It's literally
but it's deceptive,
minimal.
Jay. That's the thing.
It's because of the size of the ground,
because of the size of the stadium,
yeah.
because of the occasion, the heat on the day. I mean, I remember when we played Sheffield United in League One playoff final, and it was 38, 39 degrees down at pitch level, mate. And I'm not saying that it's going to be like that next weekend. I mean, that's one of the hottest playoff finals there's ever been on record. But the heat makes a massive difference. The occasion does. Whoever gets an early goal is massive. And so I hope you think I've been unbiased here, but my genuine opinion is Leeds get an early goal, you win it 2-3 now. I think the longer it stays 0-0, the more it falls into Southampton's favour. What I'd love to see is, unbiased now, I'd love to see it go to penalties and you absolutely crying in your beer at the end. But, the main thing is, but genuinely, going unbiased, I like the fact that you're going to get to go, mate, because I've had it where I've won at Wembley and I've lost at Wembley, and they're two unbelievably different polarizing feelings. You don't have a better feeling than winning in a playoff final. It's just not. Winning a league is great, but winning in a playoff final on that one day, I will remember when we beat Reading for the rest of my life. I remember who was there, what happened. Do you know what I mean? The whole day is just ingrained in my memory. I think Forest one, not so much. So best of luck as an unbiased fan. Best of luck. But my God, come on, Saints.
I think
a Checker-Trade Trophy final, I can tell you. But carry on.
I think most fans would actually say if they had the choice of the way to win promotion, they'd pick the playoffs over winning the league. I think most would say that because of the Wembley experience, the difficulty of getting through the mini tournament of the playoffs. So I agree with you completely. And again, a lot of people have said that the first goal will be massive on Sunday. We are undefeated when we've scored first this season. We've won 21 out of 23 now and drawn twice. That's our record when we've scored first this season.
If Reuter's on it, you're on it. But do you think Bamford will play?
Come with Bamford. I was just going to back you up on that because we said this the other week with Rutter. I've said it all season. If Rutter's on it, the team clicks in a completely different way to when he's not on it.
He dominated Norwich. Norwich couldn't handle him.
The team can't cope without a 10 properly initiating things. But Norwich is... Daniel Farke's Norwich was exactly the same when he was with Buendia. If Buendia was playing, Norwich won. If Buendia wasn't playing, they didn't win. It's exactly the same. So Bamford, no, I don't think he starts, whether he's fit or not. I think you would be absolutely crazy to go against that side that played the other day. And I think Pirot showed for the first time out of 48 games that he can do the 9 role. It was the first time this season where we've really seen him do that role. I mean, I thought it was excellent. First half, he was unplayable. He was absolutely dominating him.
I thought Reuter was the best player on the pitch, but Pirot played very well as well. And by the way, going to a playoff final, the young lad Gray, I mean, what an experience it's going to be for him. 17 playing in front of 90,000 people.
Didn't he play well the other day as well? I mean,
he did.
It was brilliant.
But Wembley's something else, mate. It's 90,000 people, home of football. At 17, if he has a cracking game in playoff final, fair play to the lad.
You know what it is with Archie? I think because he's been around it his whole life, and I know there's other players that have come and gone, before him that have also had that, but he's just so grounded. It feels so normal for him. Obviously, his uncle, his granddad, his dad are all associated with the club and all played at the very highest level. I mean, Eddie is obviously one of our biggest heroes. He's one of our most. He is our most record appearance maker, I think, is Eddie Gray. So I think he treats it very differently than other players ordinarily would. The badge doesn't weigh heavy on him in the ways that some others it has. So
probably embraces it, doesn't he?
He does. He looks like he loves it. He looks like he just lives every minute of it. So I'm not
living his dream, innit? That's the thing. A young lad like that.
you know, when it comes to like dealing with the pressure, Archie's not the concern for me. It's some of the others, if I'm honest. But I've not seen anything from this side, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This side is not the same as some of the mentality issues that we've had in the past. It's not the same. The likes of Chris Somerville, Ethan Ampadu, Joe Rodon, you know, they like it. They thrive under it. I think everything that we've seen, and you know, the pressure cooker that Ellen Road was the other day, they didn't wilt. They came out and played. It was the best performance of the season. So I'm not worried from that perspective. I'm not. I'm worried more from Southampton. The likes of Flynn Downs, you know, dominating that midfield. The midfield battle is going to be massive.
It's crucial.
Massive.
I agree. The only other thing that I'd do if I were Southampton, first 10 minutes, I'd get as many crosses and shots in on Meslier as possible. I'd just bombard his goal. And you know, within the first, like the other night, he was on it, wasn't he? He played really well, to be fair.
That save at 2-0 were massive.
But the first game, I've seen chickens have, you know, calmer experiences on a farmyard than what Meslier did. If I were Southampton, I'd just rain everything down on him as possible and see whether he can handle the pressure.
I actually really agree with you. I think the keepers could play a massive part because I actually think Alex McCarthy is a real wobbler. I think Bazunu is terrible. And he was still keeping Alex McCarthy on the bench or as third choice. I've got Lumley in there as well. Both of them, you know,
games experienced, like this, though, isn't he?
He is experienced. He is. But games like this are often won by either a moment of brilliance or a mistake. And I could very well see either goalkeeper costing their team the game with a mistake. So I think you're spot on, mate. I think you're spot on.
Oh, I'm glad that we've come to an agreement where I was unbiased. I think
we do agree most of the time when you don't, you know, waffle bias. So, yeah.
I think we've done really well.
There will be, of course, plenty more Leeds United content over the course of the week. One more final thing from Championship kind of news is something actually, Jay, that you brought to my attention just before we came on. An ex-Leeds manager and somebody that was heavily linked with the Huddersfield Town job at times as well. Paul Heckingbottom, close, not confirmed, but close to joining Plymouth Argyle. What do you make of that one, lads?
I'll let somebody else say that first.
I'm surprised. I think he's a northern-based manager. So he's, you know, I'm surprised he's got. Well, you can't get further than Plymouth, can you? You're nearly in France, to be honest. So I'm just a bit shocked. It is sort of the club that probably he could do well at, though.
Yeah.
Not a lot of expectation next season. You know, that again, probably surviving. I think they'll be down there. They'll probably lose Whittaker, so he'd probably have a bit to spend. To be fair, I think it's an all right fit, mate.
Because I get the impression that Plymouth are going to back whoever comes in. They've got the money behind them as a club. So do we not think that the reason Plymouth are attracted to him is that there was a promotion on his CV, and that actually, with the right amount of backing, they could surprise a few?
I don't see it myself, but
I don't
have a different.
I don't rate him. I don't rate him. Like,
yeah, I can. Obviously, from the Leeds perspective, especially, I can kind of see where that is. But just thinking of the more recent work from Heckingbottom.
But you know, the set circumstances he found himself in at Leeds, I think, was neither either there. It's not so much the judgment from that period of time. I know he got Sheffield United promoted, but I just think the circumstances kind of fell in a certain way. And he must have done a good job in terms of man managing, to you know, keep them together and get themselves promoted. But the way that he sets his team up, I just don't really think there's that much to him. I think this, as a kind of mid-table championship role, is as good as he could hope to get. He's not going to get another top six role in the championship. He's not going to get a Middlesbrough if that came opened, or I don't know, a West Brom, or he's just not. In my opinion, from everything that we've seen, he's just not. His main body of work of success really was at Barnsley. And that we're in League One. So
yeah, but the only difference I'd say, Jay, is you said that circumstances played a part in him getting promotion. They actually, if you think about it, played a part against him. You know, really, there was that much going off the field that it was a real nightmare for him during the whole season, really. And then they get to the Premier League, he's got no money to spend. They sell the best 2 players, and that's it. You know, I mean, to be fair, I think Sheffield United treated him horrendously. And to say he's a Blades fan, I think he should be. You know, he should be pretty angry, because obviously Chris Wilder's come back in now looking like the absolute saviour, and he was just as bad the first time around when he got
Chris Wilder was even worse. Yeah, it was even worse.
I know he was, but that's my point, Jay. Do you know what I mean? Sheffield United fans, like because Chris Wilder's the god. You know, I think Heckingbottom gets a rough ride, really.
I recognise that the actual reality doesn't coincide with what I'm saying. I do realise that, because I understand what he achieved, especially in that championship season, stands out, but I just don't see it with him overall. Like I say, I get over that season that, you know, Kevin Blackwell, as an example, right, got us to the playoff final season after we came down with, you know, a whole load of problems going on, administration looming and blah, 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 and the rest of it. But the style was awful, and ultimately we failed, and he was a terrible manager. Like, it's not a be-all and end-all of what then actually is the quality of the manager. I don't think. Yeah. So I think this is it's a good move for him.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Gaz, any thoughts before we move on to the Bantams of Bradford City?
I don't know, really. I think, like Steve said at the start, I think he's a northern lad. I think that's the thing that surprises me the most, that he's gone all the way down to Plymouth. But then I was thinking about that, and I thought, well, he did manage in Scotland for a while, didn't he? So I don't know. He probably was harshly treated at Sheffield United. He put up with a lot off the field, like you were saying. And I do agree with the Chris Wilder comment that, you know, when they first went, I mean, he took them back-to-back promotions, didn't he? And then he kept them in the Premier League, was it the first year? And then the second year was just awful, arguably, like Jay said, worse than the Paul Heckingbottom one. So I can see both sides of it. Whether he'll do a success at Plymouth or not, it's probably make or break for him in the Championship, isn't it? If he's a success at Plymouth, he can have another Championship job in the future. If he doesn't, he's going to start dropping down the leagues. He's a nice fella. He was a decent player for us in 2 spells, and all the best to him. But I'm not so sure whether he'll be a success or not.
It's one of those. I remember interviewing him or being at press conferences back when he was in the Barnsley job when I was working in radio, and he always came across really well and was a decent guy. So all the best for him. And so it's one of those. It's close but not confirmed. And to be fair, we might have just had that little discussion for nothing, because you often see from time to time these things fall through at the last second, but time will tell. Let's move on then to Bradford City, Gaz, and again, not a huge amount to discuss. However, the signings have started appearing. You know, we talked a week or two ago, over the last couple of weeks, about the retained list and that sort of thing, and those that might make their way out. Couple of new arrivals. Congratulations on becoming the Stockport B team.
Wow.
In all seriousness, Anthony Salcevic for League 2, cracking signing, and Neil Byrne looks like... look, it's one of those, when I saw it, I was like, right, it's not spectacular, but it is sensible. It's stable and steady, is Neil Byrne, his recruitment in my eyes. And those from the wider Bradford perspective.
Sarcevic looks like a really good signing. You just look at his record, he's a winner. We need winners in the squad. When you're looking at getting promotion, you need people who've been there and done it before, and you don't get more so than Sarcevic. 7 promotions. I think it's 5 out of League 2. The only issue you would say with him, I mean, Stockport fans love him to bits, so he's been absolutely brilliant for him. The only issue is he has started to apparently pick up a few injuries as he's got a bit older. So keeping him fit will be a big one. If we can do that, he's going to be a big player for us. He leads by example. He's a voice. Say again?
He knows Alexander as well.
Knows Alexander from Fleetwood, a few good going back 10 years or so. Voice in the dressing room. Alexander's talks about how there's a few quieter people around, and he needs voices in the dressing room, voices on the pitch. So he's definitely going to be one of those. Position-wise, I was a little bit surprised that we went for an attacking midfielder, because we do have a few. You would imagine that he's now going to be a nailed-on starter when he's fit. So you're going to be looking at Smallwood and Sarcevic and probably Jamie Walker. That's 3 sort of older heads in midfield, which will provide the voice, but it's harsh on people like Bobby Poynton, who's been fantastic and looks a real sort of find. So it'll be interesting to see how we line up.
is there an option for Pointing to be put elsewhere, if not through the middle in a central role?
Well, he started out, he was a left winger, and we've sort of moved him into this formation that Alexander's been playing, the 3-5-2 with the 2 8s, and Small was sitting as the 6, and he really excelled towards the end of last season. He was 1-8, and Jamie Walker was the other one. I was quite optimistic at the end of the season. I felt that for the first time in a long time, we had a goal threat from all over the pitch, or from midfield especially. You had Cook and Kavanagh up front, who both look like they can score goals, and you had Walker and Poynton in midfield, who both look like they can score goals. So for the first time in a long time, I felt that we were not relying on one person, or not relying on Andy Cook. And then you've also got, obviously, Alex Patterson and Jake Young to add to that when they're fit as well, who are also going to score goals for us. So for the first time in a long time, I feel that we're a goal threat. Sarcevic is obviously a goal threat as well, but it'll be interesting to see how we line up. I believe that we will stick with a 3-5-2 because I think it's worked for Alexander. He seems to have settled on it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who gets the shirt. But you would imagine Sarcevic, Walker, Smallwood will be the starters.
How old is he? Is he 31?
32, I think, is he?
Is he?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like a bad thing though to have an experienced midfield in League Two. Probably that's, and like I say, if you're confident, Gaz, and we know Sarcevic is a quality player, they're adding quality like that, then it's not a bad thing, is it? I mean, I'm slightly surprised he didn't stay at Stockport, if I'm honest.
I believe they offered him 1 year. They offered him 1 year, and City have given him 2.
I would have. Do we think because Stockport are going to spend a bit of money in League One and probably he would have been pushed out?
They've been a bit cutthroat, aren't they?
Yeah.
Stockport are also kind of. I mean, the biggest surprise I think when we talked about Stockport the other week on the release list was Ryan Croasdale, because he's the one that's not over 30. He's what?
Yeah, he's 20s.
He's of age.
26. Prime
is Ryan Croasdale, so he's not only short of offers, but you can tell by the fact that they've moved on. Sarcevic at 31, 32-year-old. Paddy Madden at 33 has obviously gone and joined Chesterfield as well on what will be decent money there, to say the least.
Yeah.
It does look like Stockport are trying to be a little bit younger with this squad for League One. And that, as it proves, and obviously Neil Byrne as well is an experienced head as well at the back, kind of is proving to be Bradford's game.
They've got to develop, haven't they? From County's point of view, they have to develop, because there's no point going into League One with a bunch of experienced League Two players, because I think the step between League Two and League One is quite big, especially if you're wanting to compete at the top. I think Stockport will have outside ambitions of the playoffs this season.
The bottom's not, Jay. The bottom's not, though. If you're looking at the bottom 14 in League One,
but that's not where they're not going to be thinking about just staying up.
Yeah, I know that, and I know what you say. I agree with what you're saying, that they want to develop the side to possibly in 1 to 2 years go for promotion in League One. I get that. So I get what they're trying to do. I'm just sort of saying, from like Chris says, from Bradford's point of view, it's to their gain, really, gaining such like experienced lads like that.
We talked about this when we went up last time, and I think that's spot on. I think there's a big gap between sort of the top 6 or 8 in League One and the rest, to be honest, because I think when you look at the bottom of the divisions, probably not that much between that and League Two. Speaking to Stockport fans,
we'll put that up a bit now, Gaz. I reckon the top 10 to 12 are very. Honestly, I reckon you look at League One, there's 12 to 13, 14 teams that'll be looking at the playoffs next season.
Yeah, split it into 2 halves, kind of thing. Maybe it's a bit different to it was 10 years ago. Speaking to Stockport fans, it does feel like that's what they're going to do. They believe that they're looking at bringing a younger sort of element to the side and moving some of the old heads on. We know that they've got money and they'll be ambitious, so they'll spend that money. And like Jay says, they'll be aiming for top 6. So it is that, them coming to us is our gain, Sarcevic and Byrne. We have been linked with Croasdale as well. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know. Maybe it does.
If it does, you've got some player there. But because of signing Sarcevic, if Croasdale were to happen, you're going to be a bit heavily stacked in them central midfield role.
Yeah. We need someone that can step in when Smallwood don't play, and that ain't going to be Croasdale, because Croasdale's going to be playing every week. So whether it'd happen or not, I don't know.
Couldn't you move Sarcevic into Smallwood's role, and he's like a deep lying playmaker rather than an attacking playmaker?
Potentially.
I don't know if he's ever been a sitter, has he really? He used to be a 10, and he's sort of been more of an 8.
How often do you see though, Gaz, players as they get that little bit older and the legs aren't quite what they used to be? They just drop back, but it can work. It can work.
I was just thinking, if he's the sitter, he can spray the ball about, can't he? And you could still have your Bobby Pointons going forward. Your younger legs in there as well. Might not be obviously depends how much Smallwood is rated at City and like in terms of playing. Like, is he a definite starter every week? That's what we miss at Town. Hogg doesn't spray the ball about. He just goes in and lays into people. But obviously, if you've got that sitter who can spray the ball about, it's not a bad thing in League Two, is it, really?
I think Small was more rated by the club than he is by the supporters, to be honest, or what he has been. Graham Alexander speaks very highly of him. I think Graham Alexander likes him a lot. He played a lot. The whole team did the last sort of 7 or 8 games, but he looked the more Richie Smallwood that we thought we were getting in the last 7 or 8 games towards the end of last season. He was a better, he did look a good player. So if we can carry on, it's like, can he carry on where he left off? Can the team carry on where they left off? Just speaking about Neil Byrne briefly, I think it'll depend how much he's going to play, to be honest. If we're going to build him as a starter, I don't think he was a regular starter for Stockport over 2 years. He was more that man that came in when they needed him to come in. I think he played 20-odd games last season rather than 40-odd games. It might depend. I mean, I spoke to Lou in the group chat earlier. It might depend which of our centre halves are still here, which of our other centre halves are still here next season. Obviously, we've moved Ash Taylor on, thankfully. Matty Platt has been offered a new contract but hasn't signed it yet. Sam Stubbs apparently activated a clause by playing so many games over the last 18 months, whereby he now has a contract for next season. I like Sam Stubbs. Whether Graham Alexander likes him as much, I don't know. So it might depend on what other centre halves are still there as to how much Neil Byrne plays. But again, experienced head, promotion winner, voice. That's what Graham Alexander's talked about wanting, and that's what he brings. So 2 really good signings and a good start to the window, and I'm pleased with that.
Absolutely.
Just on Stockport, right quick. When I was there 2020, their kind of memo, their kind of target was championship within 5 years. And they've literally got another year to do it. I knowing the people that are in and around it and how serious they were about it, I would fully expect them to be right up there. Like, seriously, right up there.
I think their recruitment, given the quality of players that they've allowed to leave, I feel like their recruitment is going to be
surprising.
Yeah, and pretty good heavyweight. I think their recruitment's going to be really good over the course of this summer window. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. Just a couple of things non-league wise to touch on, really. Our usual non-league man, Lewis Sale, he can't be with us tonight because he's away on holiday. He's probably sat by a pool somewhere with a nice glass of sangria or a cheeky bevy of some form, no doubt. So, I'd like to think he'll be tuned in. Let us know if you are.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Brownie and Sale going off on holiday. Jesus, come on, lads. No dedication to this channel, have you? We're slogging our guts out here.
It could be worse. They could be away during the Euros, and that starts in less than a month. So we'll come on to that in a little while. But in non-league, guys, they've signed Jordan Thewlis, which on the face of it looks like a cracking signing to bring him back. He was the top goal scorer for Alfreton at the in National League North last season. He's returned to come on a 2-year deal. He's already been there before as well, but I think he only saw out one of those 2 years before moving on. But he'll be welcome back. And Park Avenue, Bradford Park Avenue, been very busy. Paddy Sykes has joined from Campion, who's banged the goals in there. Ollie Norman's joined from Tadcaster Albion. You have to help me out with this one, Jay, whether I'm probably forgetting a few. There's been quite a flurry of arrivals in recent, I'd say, Joe.
Yeah, there's been a few. They also got the I forget his name now. The lad back from that they had on loan last season. His name's just slips my mind. Connor Shanks, that's it. Yeah, Connor Shanks. The obviously me and Lou do a little bit for Avenue behind the scenes, and yeah, we're certainly dead happy to be helping in the way that we are and contributing the way that we are, and I genuinely believe in everything that Avenue are trying to do. They've really tried to connect back with the fans and engage the fans, and I think the way that they're going about these signings, they're signing exciting players. that can make a real difference. They're not in the mould of what Avenue have signed over the last few years. That's no disrespect to the players that have been signed, but it feels like they're going in a different direction. I think I'm so excited to see how Ollie Norman does. I think he's a top player at that level. I think he could easily play in the division above, maybe even the division above that, maybe even in the north. Time will tell, but yeah, I'm excited for them. They deserve it. They deserve it because I've had a few years of pretty well, just a crap time, haven't they? So
tough league that league next year. Tough league with some tough proper sides in there as well.
I mean, keep talking. I'm just going to find, because I put it in our group chat, didn't I? The league allocations.
Yeah.
And if I'd have really thought this through, I could have put it like as a little graphic thing on the screen to show it, but I didn't. In short, so instead, I'm just going to waffle until I find the right.
I think they got the experienced keeper as well, didn't they? That they had at the back end of last season.
Yeah,
he signed Greg Ellison, yeah.
30 experience between the sticks there. The only thing that is still, and I believe it's kind of potentially in the pipeline, is the centre half thing. I'm getting some experience there, but I believe that's kind of well underway.
It's in the pipeline.
It is indeed. But as Downsy said, it's a tough-looking league next season. I found what I was looking for now, Downsy. So you're looking at Bradford Park Avenue, Brighouse Town. They got the reprieve to keep them in the Northern Premier League East. Emley, Garforth, Liversedge, Ossett United, and Pontefract Collieries. That's 7 West Yorkshire sides just in the Northern Premier League East next season alone.
I mean, you might see us at some of these grounds, by the way. We might do a bit of a West Yorkshire tour, to be fair.
You'll definitely see on a regular basis across those grounds as well.
I think, I'm excited to see how Emley do, the step up for Emley. Richard Tracy, I know we went to the final. I spoke to him since the final, very sort of angry and upset with how that ended. Didn't want to end on that note, but he's excited about what might be coming up in the next sort of over the summer. I think the players have gone on a break and Richard's going on a little break now, but he says it just never stops. And obviously the club want to make sure that they're going to be in this division and moving forward for a few years to come. So I'm sure Bradford Park Avenue will be wanting to go for promotion. I can imagine that's their angle. I don't think that'll be Emley's. I think Emley will look to survive in the division and finish about mid-table. That'd be a good season for Emley and then push on from there. I'm not sure about Brighouse. I think they'll obviously want to try and do well. Let's hope all our 7 sides do amazing next season. How good would it be if you had a top 7 of all our sides? I mean, that'd be mental, wouldn't it?
It'd be gutting for a couple of the clubs to miss out on the playoffs. That is for sure. A couple of little tidbits actually, just from our local non-league scene. A couple of managerial changes. Firstly, Riz Mohammed, who we had on the show a couple of times in the build-up to Northern Counties East League playoffs, he stepped down as manager at Albion Sports after 3 years in charge there. And Sakale over at Route 1 Rovers as well, obviously kind of widely renowned because he was the only manager in men's senior football in the pyramid to be wheelchair-bound. He's stepped aside as well at Route 1 Rovers, who are remaining in the North West Counties League, along with Steeton, actually. Both clubs, I think, will be playing at Marley next season, although there's talk of Route 1 Rovers wanting to move back to Bradford, but that's also a little bit up in the pipeline, up in the air by the looks of it. But yes, so a couple of little managerial changes there as well.
Bit of a surprise about Riz, Chris, do we think?
A little bit. I certainly didn't necessarily get that impression from kind of speaking to him after the playoff final defeat against Garforth. Kind of very much got the impression that I thought at the time that he might want to go again. But look, these things happen. I know he put a statement out on Twitter, which I'll kind of just take a couple of quotes from now, which I've just found. He's taking up a new role at the club, which involves him developing the club infrastructure and working closely with the chairman to develop the new ground. Of course, that is something that's very much in the pipeline. And I think he's also, he states that he's decided to step down as manager as he'll be travelling a lot for work over the next 12 months. And this is the thing, isn't it? This is what a lot of people have to kind of balance, isn't it, when they're working, especially in kind of Northern Counties East League, is that work-life balance and and everything that it entails is sometimes really difficult to do just that, to balance, Jay.
Yeah, I see it all the time in rugby league. When I worked in that's the same sort of sport, in terms of the down to earth working man that these lads work at 4 a.m. in a bed factory and then go and knock 7 lumps of crap out of each other on a Sunday afternoon for not a lot of money, comparatively. So, and it's the same in football.
It's a different world in non-league, isn't it? It's just a different world, and it is a. I almost kind of think of it as a sport within itself. It's like a separate sport altogether to what we see week in, week out in the professional game. I love it. I love it.
It's honestly, and we're going to come on to some of the Premier League talking points over the weekend, but honestly, there's so many times that I kind of just think I'm so glad that I've got this real burning interest in the non-league game, because football at the top level, I'm just to what that old John Coleman clip from a few years ago. Like, I'm rapidly falling out of love with the game at the top level, and we are now going to kind of deviate away from the West Yorkshire Football Show usual topics, because I mean, let's start with the final day of the Premier League season. And
boring.
Sorry, what? Yeah, a 4th title in Manchester City. Who gives a monkeys?
It's just boring, and it's just like I can't wait. I can't wait for him to leave. I know Jay's like, we have a WhatsApp chat, and like we talk about this topic quite often. And I think me and Chris particularly, and maybe Lou, I don't know, but me and Chris definitely are on one side of the fence with this. And Chris, I'm just bored of it now. Just please leave, go back to Spain or Italy and win 17 titles over there.
I think we just have short memories. I mean, the Premier League has been dominated for way longer than this by the other half of Manchester. And like this,
for me, this is the big. I think the game was different then.
Yeah, well.
It
was.
Sure, the game, but you know what? Look at world football. Bayern Munich, I know obviously Leverkusen have done what they've done this season. Bayern Munich, I think, had won 9 straight, I think it was. Real Madrid and Barcelona have dominated that division for years and years, and they've gone through patterns where Real Madrid have done it 5 years in a row, then Barcelona have done it 5 years in a row. And I just think, like, ultimately, if you create that culture and ethos in a team of success, and obviously Manchester City have what they have in terms of the backing, but let's not kid ourselves that it's all down to money, because Manchester United have spent more than them, Chelsea have spent just as much, Liverpool have spent money. They've not spent as much, but they have spent money.
Nowhere near as much.
I know they've not spent as much. But the point is that Liverpool are probably a great example of the point that I'm trying to make. They've been the best competition that Man City have seen, and they've done it through creating something. Manchester City had this money before Pep Guardiola came in.
But in 7 years, Jay, they've won 6 titles.
Yeah, but
Liverpool. What I'm saying is, Liverpool have won it once, and that was an amazing season.
But it's down to Pep. It's not that this Manchester City control was there before this.
You swap
for Pep to go.
You swap Pep and Klopp, and there's no way that Pep wins 7 titles out of 6 titles out of 7 with Liverpool. Doesn't happen because he can't spend the same money.
I think you'd find that it'd be closer, but I reckon that Pep would have won more than Klopp. And that's not a dig at Klopp. I just think Pep's that good. If you give Pep the time that he's had at City, I think you would see the same. The thing is the infrastructure has to be right, because you can't drop Pep in Manchester United and expect him to do the same job, because Man United are a basket case from recruitment all the way through. Why would he do it at Wolves? He can do it at the best club in the world.
Test himself. If he's the best manager in the world, he should be able to go to Wolves.
Backwards way of thinking. Like, why?
No, it's not.
It's like me saying to you, Dan, there. It's like me saying to you, you're the best editor, or you're the best journalist. You're the best journalist in the world, but what we want you to do is we want you to go and take this Mickey Mouse newspaper and make it bigger than the Daily Mail or the Sun. It just doesn't make sense.
That's
it's exactly the same. It's exactly
it's not. Because the Daily, because as much as sorry, Chris, go on.
As much as I would like to back you up on this, Jay is kind of right. But this doesn't. I would still love. I'm fully on board with what you're saying. I would genuinely love him, because I'm getting really irked, Jay, here, because he hates the whole. He's always had the best team in every league, but he has. That's a fact.
Yes,
He has.
yes.
In Manchester City, don't get me wrong, I appreciate what he's done over the years he's been there. I appreciate the development that he's had. And to be fair, he did that in shorter years, in shorter terms, at his previous roles. But I mean, it's hypothetical because it's never going to happen, but I would love to see him take an Everton, take a Wolves, take something that's not.
It's not a football manager. Like,
I know it's not. I would love to see, because that would be, for me, the true test of just how good a coach he is. But also, I mean, part of the thing that I said this in the group chat, and I think Jay kind of shook it. I could physically imagine Jay shaking his head. One of the worst things to have happened to the English game, because everybody wants to do the same bloody thing, and this is why Russell Martin has Saints playing the way he does.
Yeah.
Why there's clubs in the National League playing out from the back. This is why there's clubs lower down the pyramid play out from the back. And football for me, has become so at risk of just being the bloody same. Whereas you go back 10, 15 years, and it wasn't. You had different teams playing different ways on a regular basis. Nowadays, everybody wants to play the same pissing way. And one boring.
Chris, you'd love it. I don't know. Have you ever seen the Wimbledon documentary?
Which one?
The Crazy Gang one.
Yes.
And it was on BT Sport years ago.
Yes.
And Dave Bassett, the manager, I love his quote when he goes, "Why would we have 29 passes to get to the goal when we could just have one?"
It's not.
And it's just
the fact that there was a deviation in football. Like, yes, when Man United were dominating, there was still a deviation in the whole game. It wasn't everyone trying to play like Manchester United. Whereas football for me now in England, especially at the top level, has just become everyone trying to play like Man City.
But the other thing is, you had the top four at the time. You go back like 10, even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you would have, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, all going for the, but even back in the 90s, Villa, Blackburn, the table was so exciting. Now it's just boring. It's just like the FA Cup final. Can't we just have like Shrewsbury v Norwich in the FA Cup final? Be amazing, wouldn't it?
Is this the Mr. Clutch Cup from Mike Bassett?
No.
To be fair, I do kind of feel, though, in the weird way, that actually that has grown. I think it is more of a competitive top 8, perhaps, than it used to be. But it's just, yeah.
I don't think so. I disagree with that.
Anyway, 4 in a row. Honestly,
we've lost our title now, by the way. I'm good. They've beaten us. We're not... I can't sing thrice. Well, I can because I bloody will.
Just to say on Pep, right? Like the thing that I appreciate, and both Pep and Klopp have got this ability, for them to be able to keep the levels.
Yes.
For them to be able to keep them levels at that peak, with them type of players paid on the amount of money that they are for as long as they have been doing, it's just phenomenal management. And, like you say, can't he go to X, Y, or Z club and do it? The reason that he's chosen by the people within these clubs to do it is because he's the best. And the same goes for Klopp. Like, Klopp will be put back into somewhere when he's ready. I know you're not disagreeing. I bloody am. It's fact. It's just a fact. Like, you can get cheesed off at it for all you want. And I hear what you're saying, Chris, about the style of play, because everybody kind of wants to kind of now copy that. But style of plays have always been something to be shot at. I remember when Chelsea were doing it under Jose Mourinho, and the way that they used to go about winning 1-0 and defensive rear guards. And
nobody wanted to copy that. It was a different way of playing. There were still sides like Arsenal trying to play football the way that they did back then. United playing the way that they did back then. At least when Chelsea were doing it, it was different. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a case of it's a system that everyone wanted to copy.
It's because we live in a time of stats, and it is factually optimal to play that way. Like, in terms of, retention of possession, how many chances you give up, and all the rest of it. The way that Manchester City play is the most optimal style of football, and that's why it's won so many titles.
In that case, I don't care what Brownie says. I'm starting a West Yorkshire Football Show campaign to bin stats because that old thing of the only stat that matters is the one that's on the scoreboard.
Get rid of the top 6.
Yes.
Let them go have the European Super League. Let's get back to people having a different winner every year. That'd be amazing. Now.
Any, I mean, obviously, we know your affiliation to Liverpool as well as Bradford City. Your thoughts on this, and then moving nicely because I was aware that we said we'd be off by 9, probably just after now. That the whole Klopp thing, but obviously, go on. You take on the Man City thing and the discussion that we've had and you've sat through patiently.
Klopp doesn't play that way. Klopp plays a different style of football to what Pep plays,
and that's why.
You watch the Arsenal Man City game earlier in the season, like a chess match. I don't want to be watching that every week. I want to be watching different styles of football going at it. Klopp just because he's gone because he says he's out of energy, and you can kind of tell that with the type of person he is. He's created something at Liverpool. I just don't think you can be that person for forever. I think that you need a break. You need to recharge your batteries. Speaking of the managers, like the clubs that Pep's gone to, that's the opposite again of Klopp. Klopp is not going to go to a Man City or a Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich. He's been quite vocal about how he likes the underdog and and I think probably his style of management and the type of person that he is doesn't work at that type of club. And I think you look at what he did at Dortmund and you look at what he's done at Liverpool and you look at what he did at Mainz, and it'd be interesting to see where he might rock up next because I honestly don't know. Is there another club you can look at in another country and say, I honestly don't know.
AC Milan.
Not going to go to Bayern Munich.
You see, you don't go to an AC Milan. We're just saying because they're too much of exactly what Gaz is just saying that he wouldn't go to. Yeah, they're too big. They've got too much of an.
What do you mean? Juventus win it every year.
Not the same.
Oh, Downsy, you are so out of touch with Italian football. Jesus Christ. I'm literally sitting here watching Juventus lose 2-0 to Bologna on my telly.
All right, cool. All right, Chris.
The clubs yes, Italy-wise, you're talking to win the league anyway, you're talking like a Roma or a Lazio, less so than an AC, an Inter. Or, don't get me wrong, there's a slight argument with Juve now because they've been on their ass with the whole investigations and being removed out of Europe and that sort of thing. But you're looking more at the likes of Lazio or a Roma that are on the cusp of being back to what they used to be, but haven't been, I guess, for some like. But also, I struggle to see mentally in my head Jurgen Klopp managing in Italy. Not because, don't get me wrong, Serie A is by no way, shape, or form the old cliche of defensive league like it used to be. It really isn't nowadays. But I don't know. In my head, it just somehow doesn't quite fit.
He ain't going to go to Germany. He ain't going to manage again in England.
These managers are so few and far between, and Klopp reminds me so much of Bielsa in that kind of sedge, because Bielsa's exactly the same. He wouldn't have managed one of them big clubs. He just wouldn't. He always took that kind of route. And I think, just coming to Klopp, I think Klopp will take the same route as Bielsa. I think he'll go international. That's what I think he'll do.
I do as well. I do. I agree with that, Joe.
German. I do not care that he's German. Give him the England job.
Oh, 100%.
You can't. Nobody you just love him. Everybody loves him. He's just
he won't manage England though.
I don't think he will either.
But that's a different.
Yeah, and the reason he won't manage England is because of the political issues that he'd have to face.
I think he would have. It looks nailed on that he'd have ended up as Germany manager, but obviously Nagelsmann's now there until 2026. Yeah. So doing really well. So if the wheels had come off with Nagelsmann with Germany, or he hadn't got that contract extension, I think that is where I would have seen him going. But like I said, they're now revitalised as a team. The German team, they're playing really good football. They've got obviously the Euros in their country this year. They're probably going to be one of the favourites. I really wouldn't be. I know they're saying they rule out the Germans, but they're playing better football than they have done for a few years. And I don't know. I honestly don't know where Klopp will go next. He keeps saying that obviously he's a Liverpool fan now, and he'll be back watching games at Anfield. So I don't know. Let's just wait and see. But what a guy! I honestly, you speak to people who've played for him, and you speak to people who've said they'd love to play for him. Players just want to run through a brick wall for him. And I just don't think. I think that's just something like you don't get. It's a magical component of somebody, and he's got that. Yeah, and he was. Like we talk about, he was suited to Liverpool. His political beliefs were suited to those of the city. You know, he wasn't as just a manager, but as a person as well. And yeah, I shed tears yesterday. I really did, and I think there'll be a few others that will have done as well. But yeah, what a guy! I can't speak highly enough of him. He's one of those people that you just love, even though you've not met.
Two points I want to make on Liverpool before we move on, Chris, because I know it's getting close to 9. One is Liverpool is so unlike any other football club in the entire world in the fact that they idolise their manager more than they do their players. And so you can go back through every single manager near enough, bar probably Roy Hodgson in the last 30 years. No, but you can probably Roy is the one that you don't count in this. But every other one have had something going with the fans, so I think Liverpool fans idolise managers more than they do players. And the second thing is, I just don't think he won't go back to Dortmund. He won't go back to Germany because of Dortmund. He definitely will not manage here ever again in England. I don't think he's suited to Spain. So I don't know where he's going to go. And I agree with Jay. I think his next job will be an international manager. And I think if he wins something like the World Cup or the European Championships, that's him done. I just don't think he's going to.
Just speaking about Liverpool there, you mentioned about him idolising managers. Klopp made a very interesting point, and I think it kind of hits on what a lot of people talk and say about Liverpool. And I know me and Chris had this discussion in the group chat about, I don't want to use the word, but people, you know, the chance that they get towards them. But Klopp said, in England, you're either love Liverpool or you hate Liverpool. And I think that's very true. And I think he builds on that as a person and as a manager wherever he goes. And is there anywhere else like that? I don't think there is. I think they're unique in that respect. You either love them or you hate them. And yeah, like where does he go? Is there anybody else? Is there anyone?
Leeds.
No. Well, yeah, universally we all hate Leeds to bits, but you know, I think I agree. But the only reason that happens, guys, is because of the political thing going back to the 80s and under Thatcher, and it's an us and them sort of scenario. I mean, I hate the fact that Liverpool fans boo the national anthem, which we don't want to get onto, but you know, I just think it's sad.
Let's skip over that stuff, because even for me, just a really good shout here. Ajax, I can see it.
Shout.
That's a great shout here. The other thing actually I could possibly see as well is a return to Dortmund.
Yeah, I was thinking that when Steve was just mentioning him a minute ago.
But actually,
he won't manage against them, but he'd manage again for them, I think.
Yeah, I think I could definitely see Klopp going back there. We're not going to have time to get through both of my final two things. So we were going to touch on the England, of course, the preliminary squad announcement tomorrow. I'm going to skip over that because there's one more frustration that when I get off my chest. And that is the whole Newcastle and Spurs. Flying out to Australia 4 hours after full time yesterday for a post-season friendly in Australia, where they're going to be playing against each other, I think, at the end of this week. And then I think they've each got a game, I believe, against one of the Australian clubs, which is fine. But it isn't. Post-season friendlies in the matter of months after the FA and the Premier League got rid of the FA Cup replays thing over player welfare and, you know, those at the top, etc. Congestion. Yeah, but it's Newcastle. They've got all the money that Saudi Arabia wants.
Money, Chris. It's money. It's money. Money runs football now.
It's not money. It's not money. It's not. It's sports washing. That's what it is. Which is indirectly
which is money.
To money. No, it's not money. Sports washing is about how you create this illusion around your either company or you know belongings and whatnot. It's exactly the same as.
But it's all facilitated through money. That's why
facilitated money, but it's not about making more money.
That's why Saudi Arabia host all the boxing fights now.
Yeah, it's sports.
They don't do it because they love boxing. They do it because it makes them a load of money.
No, it doesn't.
That is sports washing.
It doesn't make Saudi Arabia loads of money. It makes the boxers loads of money because they're getting paid a load of money to go and fight somewhere where nobody wants them.
Sports washing it. I get your point. I just think it's pathetic that they're going on a post-season friendly a week after the season's finished, which is like say Chris linked to the FA Cup shit about the fact that replays have been scrapped now. It's just pathetic.
We just live in a totally different time.
It also links into, I don't know if any of you guys saw this, but there was an article published last week basically saying that Game 39 and taking games abroad he's back on the table, basically.
I remember that being talked about. Christ, like when I was at university, that was one of those things that was being talked about. And that was the best part of 15 years ago now. So
Spain want to do it. Spain nearly did it last year, if you remember. They did it with was it a cup game? And they were going to play it in like New York or whatever.
You would have absolute outrage in this country if they did that. You pay for a season ticket and one of the games is in America. You would literally have outrage.
And it's not going to be Burnley v Hull, is it? It's going to be Man United v Tottenham, innit?
Clearly, Gaz hadn't quite thought of it like that, had he?
No, well, I don't agree with it at all. I just thought it was bizarre that it was back on the table, to be honest. And yeah, Jay, that's an amazing point. Can you imagine being told that, your last game of the season, your relegation decided, oh, by the way, you've got to go to Miami to watch.
Yeah. Imagine being like an Arsenal season ticket holder who's paid, because I think their tickets are ridiculous out there. They're about 1,500 quid, $2,000.
They're the most expensive in the country, Jay.
Yeah. And you have, the North London derby in America. You just lose it, wouldn't you?
It's just something as us as fans need to voice as much as we possibly can, because and this is why I love the Championship down, because it's proper British football. And even when Town got in the Premier League, and as much as what it was like, I didn't enjoy it, I'll be honest. And that's not because we were getting beat by Stoke City. It was because of all the adage that it came with it. It's not as beautiful as what people think.
It's not, is it?
It's not. And I can attest for that from a fan that's wanted to get back there for 16 years, got back there, had 3 years and come back down. Don't get me wrong, I want to get back there because I think we've got the capabilities to be a Villa. I do. I think we've got the scope. There's the potential to that. But I absolutely hear it. For a Huddersfield, you get in there, the journey is far better than the destination.
Luton, Burnley, Sheffield, being chewed up. It's the first time since 1993 that all the club first season where all the promoted clubs have come straight back down.
Let's be fair, they were pathetic, weren't they? The gap is just
they were
massive.
pathetic, but they kept. Luton are not going to go out and we spent 40 million, Jay, in the first season.
Yeah.
We spent 40 million. That Town would never ever do that ever again in their history. I don't think.
The gap's just so big. It's just so big.
Bob said that, didn't he, yesterday? It's the journey. And I think you've just hit a really good point. The journey for a football fan is almost as good, if not as good, as the final destination at times.
100%.
Your best moment, Jay, is if you go up in the playoffs to bring it full circle, and you go next season and you get battered every week. Your best moment for the next year will be what happens next Sunday.
Yeah,
how mad's that?
I totally hear that.
How crazy as a football fan is that?
Yeah, I totally hear that. Apart from the first season under Bielsa behind closed doors, the Premier League for us wasn't fun. It wasn't fun.
It's like you're getting a Ferrari and it's all shiny and new, and you get inside and it's full of dog crap. That's what it is. That's what the Premier League is. It's a Ferrari. It's a Ferrari, like trying to be a Ferrari, and actually it's a Fiat Punto full of crap, dog crap. That's what it is.
You've come out with a couple of belting analogies that we haven't heard from you for a good few weeks, Steve, and I'm so glad you have.
I try my best, Chris.
Well, there we go. Is that really the note we want to end on? A Fiat Punto filled with dog crap.
I think we finish it on what me and Gaz have just said. That remember, football is about the moments. It's not about the end destination. It's about the journey, and we're going to enjoy our journey on Sunday. Up the boys, matching on together.
Ian's a fan, by the way, Steve. Very profound, fantastic. And for more,
I'm always professional, Ian. I'm always professional.
He's up there with Kierkegaard in terms of great philosophers. Is our Stephen Downs. let's end on
Black
that.
Brian Cox, the stars.
It is all about the journey, eh?
Don't stop believing.
Hey, it's karaoke time with Gaz.
Oh, let's quickly end then in that case. A big thank you to the usual contributors, to Jason Booker, to Stephen Downs, to Gareth Walker, for everyone that's been tuning in. Even though we stopped talking West Yorkshire football a good 40 minutes or so ago, a lot of you have kept with us and kept commenting as well. Do get in touch. Do give us your likes and views and comments on the threads as well. You can stick your comments on the YouTube channel. You can tweet us as well at WYorksFootball. Let us know your thoughts and views on everything that we talk about here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Of course, as mentioned earlier, there will be a lot more content to come over the course of the week, building up to Leeds United in the playoff final on Sunday, as Jay looks somewhat anxiously.
I'm not at all nervous. I'm not at all
And the
nervous.
Saints go marching in.
Cut him off. Mute him.
There we go, mate. There we go. I'll bring you back. But yes, big thank you to everyone that has viewed tonight. As I say, give us a like and subscribe on the channel on YouTube. Follow us on social media, on Facebook as well. Just search for the West Yorkshire Football Show. So for myself and the lads, thanks for joining us tonight. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening. We're back later on in the week here on the West Yorkshire Football Show.